Oh, hey, everybody. Going live, trying this again, trying this on some multiple channels. Give everybody kind of a chance to join in here. Hello, everybody. Welcome on a beautiful, well, it's not really beautiful here. It's kind of cold and cloudy, but still a Wednesday afternoon, short week. Um, Going to cover the topic today of Amazon's new buyer seller messaging policy update. Big update from Amazon yesterday, and want to take a second and answer any questions that anybody might have about this policy update, and also talk about how it kind of impacts us and our business. So thanks for joining. Go ahead and say hi in the comments. Go ahead and give a thumbs up. Share some love. It's my way of knowing that you're out there and that I'm not just talking to myself. And we're going to dive into is the Amazon policy update on buyer seller messaging. Now, personally, I want to say that I'm excited about this update. So why am I excited about this update? I have two main reasons why I'm excited about this update. One is that Amazon has finally come out and flat out stated that Amazon sellers can ask for reviews. So it had always been kind of implied that you could ask for a review, but in the new policy update, it flat out says you can ask for a review. And that is an amazing, great thing because there's no more ambiguity around this. And lots of sellers have written into seller support. They've asked questions about this, and they've gotten all different kinds of answers. And so it's great for Amazon to finally give us a definitive answer and tell us that we can do something that we've known for years that we can do. So you take a company like Seller Labs, a tool like Feedback Genius, one of the first in the market doing buyer seller messaging. We've been encouraging and helping sellers request reviews from buyers for 7 years. The policy had always been kind of vague. It had always kind of alluded to the idea that you could ask for reviews, but they've made it crystal clear in this policy update where they have said that one of the things you can do with your messaging is to ask for reviews. So that's awesome. The other thing that they said in this messaging that I thought was really big and really super exciting was that they finally came out and said that you can use third-party applications from the App Store. Amazon developed their App Store a couple of years ago. Seller Labs had to go through a large vetting process to get into the App Store. We were part of the original App Store release. We worked with them in the development of the App Store, but they never came out and told you that like using these tools in the App Store mean you're compliant. And so they issued a few updates within this policy, and they worked with providers like us to ensure that our tool meets those requirements. So you as a seller don't have to worry about adding an order ID or adding a preferred language. We as the provider have to do that for you, which is what gets us access to be able to have our tool inside the App Store. So these two things are super exciting because, again, sellers have gotten messages from seller support saying that you cannot use a tool, but this is very crystal clear. It's crystal clear. You can use a third-party tool like Feedback Genius. You can ask for a review. And so now the question is, what do we as sellers in the community need to do to properly do this? Because there are proper and improper ways to ask for these reviews or to communicate with our buyers. And so I'll cover these again in a little bit, but I want to give everybody kind of a chance to ask some questions. And this is kind of your chance to kind of ask some questions related to this policy. Anything that you still think is ambiguous, anything that you still think isn't as crystal clear as it should be. And let's talk about what this policy is and like what type of changes we need to make. So now that we have it kind of crystal clear that we are allowed to be messaging our customers, we are allowed to be asking for reviews, and we can use Seller Labs tools. What can we not do? Now, there are a couple of sections within here. So the first section is where Amazon says you cannot include any of the following message types. And they list 7 of these. And what's interesting about these 7 message types is that nothing in here has really changed from what they've told us before. So they don't want us to do order or shipping confirmation. So we don't need to just send an email that says your order has shipped. They don't want you to do a simple message that just says, thank you for your order. If you need any help, please let me know, right? They want you to be giving a little bit more value. Interestingly enough, on the marketing and promotional messaging, they added the word including coupons. We did a survey about 2 years ago and asked about including coupons in messages. And we had about a 50-50 response of people who thought you could still add coupons inside a message. Amazon is now making it crystal clear, no promotions, no coupons, no additional marketing. The next one is the one that they really expanded the language on. So we've been telling you guys for about 2 years now that you need to not use what we called persuasive language. But they came out in this policy and they said you cannot use any incentive or persuasive language. So let's talk about persuasive language first, because that's kind of easy. Persuasive language is anything that would be like an if-then statement. If you had a good experience, please do this. If you did not, please do this. If I give you this, will you do that? That's persuasion, incentive, seeking to only get positive reviews, which goes into some of points 5 and 6, which is language around the review. But they went in to say that when you're asking for reviews, you can't ask for positive reviews or feedback. You can't include any compensation. And then they listed money, gift cards, free, discounts, refunds, rebates, reimbursements, or future benefits. Now, here's what's critical about this. What this shows me, what this line right here tells me, is that Amazon is watching what's happening throughout the space. So there was recently a study, I think it was by UCLA. It was just covered by CNBC on fake reviews and the system, the number of Facebook groups where people are giving away discounts and rebates and refunds and all of that. And there's been several rebate websites that have popped up, and they try to argue that the rebate is just an incentive, and there's no difference between running a rebate on Amazon and running a rebate in a store. I'm not going to get into the debate about whether you should be running discounts, whether you should be running rebates, or offering reimbursements. What Amazon makes it crystal clear is that if you're offering any of those things, don't ask for a review. So I'm not going to get into whether you should do rebate programs or not do rebate programs. But if you're going to choose to do them, do not ask for a review. You're violating the policy. And then the last one that they end up with is a repeat request per order for a product review or seller feedback. So again, Amazon is saying earlier, you can ask for a review. And now they're saying a repeat request, which means if you ask for it more than once, you're in violation. So the positive, you can ask for this review. The negative, you can't ask for it more than once. Here's the question I proposed to Amazon. What is the number one violation people have with buyer-seller messaging? And the answer that I got was that they were asking for reviews multiple times. And this is really important as you go back and you look at your messages to ensure that you're compliant. If you're talking about personalization of your product, or you're talking about scheduling a delivery, or you're talking about, any of the other permitted messages that you might be asking about, it's critical that at the end of that, you don't ask for a review. Or if you do ask for a review, you don't come back later and ask for a review again. Only ask for a review once. So the easiest way to think of this now is that you want to have what I'll call an ASIN level strategy for communication. And we've talked about ASIN level strategies before and profitability and things like that. But now we want to have an ASIN level strategy for communication. How and what am I communicating about this particular product? And what messaging am I going to use? And every ASIN in your catalog should have this communication strategy broken down to the ASIN level. Now, some ASINs might just use the request to review feature. Some ASINs might require multiple messages based on the type of product, and some might just have one. But ensure that for each communication policy that you have, that you're following the policies of Amazon. So that pretty much covers what they don't want us to include. Now, Amazon kind of says, don't include all of this. And then they say, let's go a little deeper. And so let me just kind of look for some questions here. Let's see. So Jerry wanted to know, I think this kind of does this here. Yeah. Oh, cool. Hey, Jerry. Hey, Jerry. Good to see you, buddy. Jerry wanted to know, can we ask for both a product review and seller review or seller feedback in the same email? I believe you can. I believe that it says to only ask for one. Don't ask for it repeated times. So just make sure you're careful in the language that you use. Now, one of the things I brought up to Amazon, and they haven't responded to me yet, was asking about what happens when people leave seller feedback that's really a product review. And I pointed that out to them, that it happens more often than not. And hopefully one day they'll do something about that. Typically, what my recommendation, best practice for this question is, what's more valuable to you, a product review or seller feedback? Pick the one that's most valuable to you and use and go with that strategy. So while you probably can ask for both in one email, ultimately ask yourself, which one is the one that you are that you're going to benefit from the most, right? And so that's the big question. Let's see here. Other questions. Just a lot of people saying hi. Hi back to all of y'all. Keep saying hi. Okay, so Paul wants to know, can you ask for a review in an email and then click the review request button on the order? Paul, that is a great question. So I asked that question as a clarification with Amazon as well. And while the policy does not explicitly state that you cannot do both, they did tell me that they consider that to be 2 review requests. So it's best practice and our recommendation that you do one or the other, that you do not ask for the review and ask for the request to review. So that's the best way to go about that. The other thing about the request to review feature, so for people that aren't aware of the request to review feature, it's a new feature on Amazon. It's under the orders tab. It's technically not using buyer seller messaging. It's using review messaging. Technical difference with inside Amazon. But the kicker to that is that you don't get any data or statistics, and you don't even know that the message was sent. So I think depending on, again, what you're trying to do should determine whether you're using request to review or whether you're just going to use a message. So, but I don't recommend you do both. That's the easiest answer. Hey, Kat, how are you? Haven't talked to you in a while. How about ratings? Can you ask for that? So right now, I don't know of a way in Amazon to specifically ask for ratings versus reviews. And so for people that aren't aware of this, Amazon, maybe about 6 months ago, started allowing you to leave a rating for a product, which allowed you to just click on stars without actually having to write the response within the review. I think that's actually, from what I can tell from user experience, it's customer choice. And it's kind of random. So if you look in your Amazon shopper app, you'll notice that at times you can do ratings, but at times they actually force you to write the review. So there is no way that Amazon has allowed for us to just ask for ratings. And it seems like they're using some type of algorithm that as a shopper, after I ask for a review a certain number of times, after I give a rating a certain number of times, I'm kind of forced to write a review before I can go forward. And if you want to have some fun, pull it up on your phone, pull up in your shopper app, and you can really just kind of like pound through, leaving ratings for people. Obviously, the challenge for us as buyers or as sellers is that when we only have ratings, we don't have true feedback on what's happening with our product. So it's a good thing for us that Amazon is kind of forcing people to also leave reviews. Great question. All right. Is there an easy way to set up, disable, delete, hold off on asking a pre-scheduled message for Ask a Review once a customer cancels an order? Okay, so that's a really good question. Inside Feedback Genius, you can set when you want your message to go. And so you can say that you want your product on delivery. You can want it within a certain time of delivery. You can only want it if it's been delivered within a certain time period. So there's a whole bunch of features within the advanced settings. And you can go into them and you can use those to kind of prompt some of those. Chris, if you are a customer of Seller Labs and you have questions about that, in the bottom right-hand corner, which is actually over here because I have to go backwards, you can click on the little bubble and you can ask any one of our customer success team and they can kind of help you with some of those more advanced settings. But there are ways within our settings and using an automated tool like Seller Labs that will allow you to only ask people for orders that get delivered within a certain period of time. Great questions coming in, guys. All right, let's see. She hates reviews or hates ratings without text. Yeah. So why are they doing them? They're doing them because Amazon wants more ratings in their system. And it's kind of a natural thing that happens in some other places. Okay. So this is a great question. Let's go into this one from Jonathan. Can you add collateral material in the box asking for a product review? So Amazon's rules on inserts are the same as their rules in buyer seller messaging. You can ask for reviews within your packaging, but I've got a collection of these going. These are kind of like been fun. I've been keeping these from like all of my orders. So like here, this one was like a $10 gift card. This one was free products. This one was, oh, that's the same one. I got two of those. This one was a coupon. So they're offering me a coupon here. And then this one is, I'll hide the name. I'm not looking to get people in trouble, but they're like, let us know if you're happy. Well, we're here to help. I consider all of those to be violations of terms and service if we follow the rules of terms and service around inserts. But you can ask for a product review, but the same rules apply. Make sure you're asking in a non-persuasive manner and you're not offering an incentive. Just a quick recap for those that have joined us. Amazon updated their policy for buyer-seller messaging. One question I got asked earlier was, why did it come as a PDF? Well, the reason it came as a PDF is because you are getting notified of the policy update before it goes live. So what we saw yesterday was the notification of the policy change. The actual policy change doesn't go into effect until November 3rd. They chose Election Day. That's kind of weird. Tomorrow, I'll be doing a webinar on how to prepare your messages based on the new guidelines. So I'm sure Caroline will post into this chat if you want to sign up for the webinar. So today we're just kind of like answering quick questions. Tomorrow we're going to get into like the in-depth of how to do this. Okay, so Paul wants to know, does it have the same weight? Do ratings have the same weight? Ultimately, I don't think we know that answer. So I don't know how it actually impacts the algorithm. Let's see. More questions coming in. I think I just, let's see. Okay. So 2 nonstop chill, 24 nonstop chill. All right. I like the names. We're going to like Peloton names. Can you still customize the font of the message? So that's a great question. Amazon actually starts to define something new in this that they haven't defined before. And so they have about 10 or so styling guidelines that they haven't had before. Now, the funniest of which is that you can no longer use emojis or GIFs. The only thing I can think of that stops them from wanting us to use emojis and GIFs is that people were gaming the system with emojis and GIFs, and the weight of emojis and GIFs make emails heavier from like a weight of the text of what's being transmitted. So you can't use emojis and GIFs, even though I would argue they're part of the way we speak today. But then Amazon goes into all these things in terms of like image size and margins and font sizes. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to add consistency to the message. So you're not supposed to have fonts in more than 3 sizes. You're supposed to keep your alignment of the text correct. No additional line breaks, right? No unsecure images, no grammar errors. Remember, Amazon wants to create a consistent message to their customers, and that's why they're starting to implement some of these. So it doesn't have rules about what fonts you can or you cannot use, but they don't want your email having 10 different fonts in it. And I still go back to this basic idea that we're also shoppers on the platform. So what do we want to read in an email when we get it? You guys get a lot of emails from Seller Labs. If we were sending you emails that had 25 different fonts in it and things like that, you'd probably get annoyed with that as well. So you can customize the fonts, but you are limited in the number of fonts that you have. Caroline, thank you for sharing. We do have a blog article that you can read that talks about getting reviews and compares request to review to buyer-seller messaging. Let's see. We got the webinar registration. Okay, so Chris, great question. So Chris wants to know if we are planning to remove open tracking because there is a policy that says pixel images are no longer allowed. Chris, your answer is yes. So Seller Labs just got the updates from Amazon. We have until November 3rd for our tool to be compliant. And we as a team have gone through a bunch of features in our tool that we believe violates the new policy or puts you in potential trouble for the new policy. And we will be removing all of those things. Remember, as a member of the Amazon App Store, it's our job to create a tool that that does not get you in trouble. Now, I always want to be careful in this because there are ways to use our tool to get in trouble. But for instance, we have the ability to add emojis into messages. We have the ability right now to track open rate. And so as Amazon wants us to remove these, we'll remove the base feature from our tool so that you don't accidentally use these things. In addition to that, we're going to be going through kind of a cleanup process where we're going to be working with our customers to send them messages to say, hey, you have a message that uses an emoji. You have a message that has a coupon. And we don't know exactly what these are going to be yet, but we're looking at how can we programmatically help you guys identify messages that might lead to a restriction. Second to that, if you would like, our team will also review your messages for you. Now, if you have 100 messages, we're not going to review 100 messages. So typically what we ask is we ask that you pick a message or a series of messages for a product and ask us, and we'd be happy to review that particular message and give you some feedback. Now, I give a disclaimer in all of this, which is that we are not judge and jury, right? So we don't make the final decision of what is or is not within Amazon policy. We can offer you our best recommendation based off of what we know and best practices that we offer. But you are still liable for understanding the best practices. You are liable for understanding the policy that Amazon has and ensuring that your messages meet that policy. But again, we can focus on all these details, but I want to focus on the positives. The positives are you can ask for reviews. No doubt about it. It's black and white inside the content. It says asking for reviews and seller feedback is permitted. You can use tools like Seller Labs, Feedback Genius, which is now part of Seller Labs Pro. If you haven't used us in a while and you want to come back, come on back. We'll still take you. And we want to help you put good messages out there. But as Chris mentioned, if you go into our tool today, there may be some things in there that would be a violation of the policy. We are working to remove those, and we will do our best to communicate with you over time as those changes are made. And if we identify any emails that may be a problem or problematic for you. All right, let's hit another question here from Devin. How important is the total feedback rating for Amazon sellers? Obviously, we want our rating to be as close to 100% as possible, but what exactly are the advantages of a high feedback score? Okay, so feedback is at your seller level, whereas reviews are at the product level. If you are competing for the buy box, then your feedback rating means a lot more than if you are the sole seller of that product. But ultimately, sellers want to trust buyers want to trust the sellers they're purchasing from. I always get confused when I do these. So ultimately, you would like a good rating in whatever you have. And, typically your feedback scores can be based on your ability to ship the product, get it delivered, and sent out on time. If you're using FBA, then a lot of times Amazon will remove bad feedback if it's related to something they did. And then your product reviews are related to the product and the quality of the product. So we're talking today about Amazon's changes to buyer-seller messaging. They go into effect November 3rd. Anybody else know what is so important about November 3rd and why Amazon chose that date? I think it's just totally a coincidence, but it is kind of an important day. So let's go into a couple of the other changes that are in here. We talked a little bit about the permitted messaging styles and accessibility guidelines. We talked a little bit about the fonts and some of the images. The other thing that Amazon really kind of got strict about, or maybe they drew a little bit more attention to, is the inclusion of emails, telephone numbers, website addresses. And one of the things that they said that I thought was interesting and different about this than other policies is that attachments are at the same level. And so they actually stated in here that's different. They said attachments except for product instructions, warranty information, or invoices. And so I think this is one that a lot of sellers need to pay attention to because, and we're guilty of this as well, over the last years, we've all come up with creative ways to use attachments. And this is the first time that Amazon has really come out and said what you can and you cannot use attachments for. So the biggest issue that I've seen with attachments is that people were using attachments to sneak things in. And so in an attachment, people would use a coupon or a promotion or highlight some of their other products. And so while many people were using attachments in what I would consider acceptable, positive ways, providing additional information, providing a recipe book or something like that, a lot of people were abusing it. So Amazon has clearly come out and said, we want the abuse of attachments to stop. There's only 3 reasons to include an attachment: your product information, your warranty information, or your invoices. So somebody did ask me, could I still include my recipes? I believe yes. And again, I'm not judge and jury with Amazon, but if let's say I sell a mixer, my wife uses this little like mixer that goes in to like stir in her like drops and stuff into her coffee. Let's say I sell that and I want to give instructions and I want to give cleaning instructions and care instructions. I might also include my 3 recipes for my favorite coffee drinks. The kicker is that I'm not going to name my document favorite recipes. I'm going to name my document product instructions and care documents. and just have the extra information in there. In the same way that if you opened up a Cuisinart, the Cuisinart also has recipes inside of it. So again, it's about the intention of what you're trying to do. And if you're trying to use the attachment to provide extra value, you need to ensure that it's starting and stopping with the product instructions, the warranty information, and the invoices. Now, Amazon goes on to say logos that contain a display link to your site. Many people named their companies something.com as their way of putting a logo on it and then being able to put their URL in front of people. I believe if your logo has a .com on it, you should remove it. Now, if you've been selling on Amazon for a while and you also run your own website, you probably will notice that people are jumping back and forth from Amazon to your site and from your site to Amazon. So they find it anyway. Don't get yourself in trouble by violating this part of the policy. All right. A couple questions came in here. And sorry, Devin, I left your question up while I had to go back to the policy on another page. So let's see. How does the difference from request a review that was rolled out earlier this year? Okay. So I'll go through this once again, but request a review is, and we have a link earlier in the comments that shows you the difference of the two. Request a review is basically leaving Amazon to message your clients on your behalf. So the email comes from Amazon, the look comes from Amazon, the language comes from Amazon. If you are in any way worried about violating this policy, you can always use the request a review feature. So inside Seller Labs, you have the choice of using the traditional Feedback Genius, where you write your message, communicate your message to your customer, brand it with your own logo, or request a review. That's a choice that you have. And so your choice is like, do I want it to be an Amazon message, Amazon language, or do I want it to be my brand, my message? That's the biggest question that you have between the two, that differs between request a review and buyer seller messaging. I'm trying to use very technical Amazon terms, not to be a pain in the butt, but because that's how these things work. Like Amazon technically calls it buyer seller messaging and request a review. All right. So one other question about the request a review. What does it look like to customers? I've never seen one. So the easiest way to describe it is it basically is I think I have an example somewhere. It's basically a logo at the top, and it's a very simple, we'd like to have you give us some feedback for this product. And then it's the ability for them to click in and leave a review. So it's very kind of short, concise, and to the point. The biggest difference is that it's an email that comes from Amazon. As Bobby said, it's very boring, and it is, but boring isn't bad, right? So like, let's not just say boring is bad. For some people and some brands, if you've been restricted in your ability to message, then it may be all you have that's left. It's very difficult to understand which one performs better because there's not a lot of statistics that are being given. And we have pushed back on Amazon to say, hey, can you provide us more statistics? I think the big thing about I'm going to take that off so people don't think this conversation is boring. But the biggest thing between request a review and buyer seller messaging is whether you're customizing your message, right? And most of the policies that we're talking about today are around proactive messaging, which means messages that you are sending to a buyer prior to the buyer engaging with you. So Paul wants to know, are images still allowed in the body of the message? So Amazon has come out and you can still use images within the body of the message. There are some guidelines around that. They do not want you using product images. And I don't specifically know why they don't want you using product images, but they don't want you using product images. So the only thing that they say about images is they say image or graphic size is larger than 80% of the max width of the page. So they just don't want like really big ones. They also go on to say that you can't have sensitive content, right? Bare skin, violence, gore, adult offensive language. So just make sure that again the messages and the images are things that are appropriate. That's important to understand. Great. Let's see if no more questions. Thank you guys. I just wanted to come on, talk a little bit about kind of what was going on, the policy. So again, Amazon's policy, they announced it yesterday on September 8th. It goes into effect November 3rd. If you have additional questions related to the policy, you can sign up for our webinar and we'll answer them, or you can put them into the comments below, and we will be checking these comments and continuing to update specifically on these comments. Thank you guys for joining me for a quick impromptu live. I guess it wasn't totally impromptu because I gave you guys a heads up and told you that I was going to do this. And I'm glad that, you know, as a software provider in this space for the last 7 years, Seller Labs has tried to be and believes we have been a leader in this space and providing you guys quality information that is best practices and driving your business in the right way. And we really appreciate your support and your business. And we appreciate that everything we've been telling you is right. I mean, it kind of feels good, right? It feels good that what we've been telling you is right, and that there's some small tweaks that we all need to do, but we're allowed to keep messaging our customers. We're allowed to keep asking for reviews. We just need to make sure we do it in the right way. So everybody have a great day, and thanks for joining me.